morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, online viewers, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM and respective radio stations island-wide. I'm Rolika Roach and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, September 4th, 2019. At this time, I invite the Minister of Justice, the Honorable Cornelius de Weaver, to address you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roach. Good morning to my colleagues, to the press. Good morning, St. Martin. Just a few announcements this morning. First of all, we started the Fines Recovery Project that was launched last week, Friday. I would like to again encourage the public that if you have any outstanding fines, to please stop by and pay them. The receiver's office will accept cash and card. However, the police department as well as the prosecutor's office will only accept card payments. So please take note of that. If you're not sure if you do have a fine or not, but you think you had one, you can't find it, you can always stop by the prosecutor's office, get the information, and pay one time. So I encourage you to do so. You have the grace period from September 1st until September 30th, so which means you have the end of this month to pay as well, the end of the month of September to pay, so you have 2 paychecks to cover any fines that you may have outstanding. So I ask you to please be compliant and do so. After that, we will start enforcing the fines and the payment of them, which may include additional fees, so we're trying to prevent that from happening. The second update that I have is regarding the Miss Lally Center. As you know, I believe last week or 2 weeks ago, we announced the opening and the accepting of our first residents there. That is still going well. The second wing has now been completely restored, and that is now open and can also accept individuals. But again, we always encourage our youth especially to just be compliant, stay out of trouble, obey the laws, and don't end up there. On Saturday, I went to Anguilla with the Coast Guard as well as the Frontside Sea Rescue because the Royal Anguilla Police Force had a social event and to show their appreciation for the cooperation between the islands, not only when it comes to the August Monday and August Thursday events, but also when boats or individuals go missing within the region, that we all work together to help them. So it was a great bonding experience. I was able to see quite a few things at the Royal Anguilla Police Force that I think that St. Martin can definitely benefit from and that we can join forces. And I will continue those discussions with the Chief of Police as well as the Royal Anguilla Police Force. And last but not least, on Sunday, we attended a church service at the Good News Baptist Church in St. Peter's. The service was dedicated to the correctional officers at our facilities. I want to thank Pastor Webster and his entire deacons and church for accepting us and praying for us, and I look forward to any other questions if you have any. But those are a few of the updates of what happened last week and what will continue happening this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister de Weaver, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, the Honorable Christopher Weaver, to address you.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to the Deputy Prime Minister, my colleague ministers, members of the media, and the people of St. Martin. First, I would like to wish the people of the Bahamas much strength during their recovery period, and may they be able to build back stronger and better. I wish to thank the former Minister, Nicholas Gettison, for his tireless contribution to the redevelopment of St. Martin during his tenure as Minister of Rummy. I was happy to serve by his side and to work with my colleagues in the cabinet. I have accepted the offer of being the new Minister of Rummy, with the understanding that there is still much work ahead to be done. I'm confident that with the support of the entire ministry and my colleagues in the Council of Ministers, we can achieve great things. On Friday, August 30th, I was sworn into office. Right after I returned to my office to ensure everything was in place to start some minor roadworks last week, Saturday, August 31st. Being that we are currently in the peak of the hurricane season, my ministry will primarily focus on minor road patching and will tackle the larger road repairs after the hurricane season. My ministry will continue with the much needed road painting of the road markings in order to improve road safety. On Saturday, August 31st, I visited NVGEB and had a tour of the facility and a healthy discussion with the CEO, Mr. Chittick. I conveyed my concerns about people being left in the dark and was pleased that a solution was found to repair the damaged engines. I was assured that the system GB now uses helps the controllers to manage the load evenly. The electricity and water supply to homes and businesses should be stable, dependable, and uninterrupted. To do this, we need to fully support GB's efforts to rebuild after being devastated by Hurricane Irma and Maria. In the coming weeks, I will be looking forward to meeting with the management and board of NBGEB on their future plans, especially concerning the possibilities of green energy for St. Martin. I will also schedule a meeting with the St. Martin Housing Development Foundation regarding their vision and the pending repairs. Suitable and safe housing for our citizens is priority and as such needs to be addressed. I will also schedule a meeting with the St. Martin Housing Development Foundation regarding their vision and the pending repairs. Suitable and safe housing for our citizens is priority, and as such, needs to be addressed. My goal is to work with my colleague ministers, the honorable members of parliament, our public and private sector partners, and the community to continue to rebuild as quickly and efficiently as possible. Together we can and we will make the difference for our country and sustainability restore St. Martin to its glory. Lastly, I wish to thank everyone who has sent their best wishes and congratulated me on assuming this new role as I continue my journey in public service. I look forward to working for the people of St. Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Waver, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport, and Telecommunication, the Honorable Stuart Johnson, to address you.
Good morning to my colleague ministers, to the media, to those listening via radio, television, or on Facebook. Over the past few days, I, like many of you, watched with sorrow the dreadful storm Dorian as it caused extensive damage and disrupted the lives of many people in the Bahamas. Indeed, we can relate to its devastation here on St. Martin, as we still are recovering from Hurricanes Irma and Maria and their destructive powers. My thoughts and prayers go out to the Bahamians in this challenging time. Approximately 2 weeks ago, I initiated a meeting with the Ombudsman, Ms. Mussel, and her support staff, along with the Secretary General of the Ministry of TIAT, the head of the Department of Inspection, the head of Economic Affairs Department, and my Executive Secretary. The objective of the meeting was to begin the discussion on resolving some inherited issues within the Ministry of TIAT that date back several years. Following the meeting, the Ombudsman disseminated a press release to the media, to which her surprise was a complete misrepresentation of the details and facts with an even more misleading headline. She expressed as much to me, and I thanked her for providing clarity on the matter in a conversation that we had via telephone. I respect the media as an essential part of our democracy and therefore want to encourage all media to strive for accuracy with integrity. An excellent approach to the dissemination of information to the community who depends heavily on it will be increasing dialogues with those who know, seek the truth, and write it. With your help, we expressed our concern over the Today newspaper, and now it is removed. A more daring headline, of course, would be that the Ministry of TIAT rejects any 2% increase in tariffs for GEBE customers. And that would make an interesting headline. On Friday, I attended the annual shareholders meeting of the Dutch Caribbean Air Navigation Service Providers in Curaçao. It was an excellent opportunity to get updates on the matters pertaining to air traffic control services in our region. I am happy to report that we are receiving and reviewing candidates to determine who will represent St. Martin on the board of DCANSP for the very first time. Last week, I also discussed with the Bankers Association on St. Martin the much talked about Caribbean Financial Action Task Force and its effects on our economy, which is solely dependent on tourism. Following that meeting, I held discussions with members of Parliament and my colleagues in the Council of Ministers to see how best we can address the issues associated with it. I also discussed the increasing restrictions imposed by local banks to persons interested in opening accounts. I recognize that rules are put in place for us to follow, but these rules should not restrict our citizens from quickly accessing essential services. The Bankers Association has also indicated it is primarily their corresponding banks and the central bank that have stringent demands for their information. I have suggested that we must ensure that our people can save their life savings without the hassle, so they can also have a nest egg in difficult times. I hope that the banks, supported by the Chamber of Commerce, who attended the meeting on my request, will soon find ways to stimulate economic activity among small and medium-sized businesses. Discussions have already started with the World Bank on the options of stimulus for the local companies, which I hope will reach soon fruition. I also met with the World Bank to discuss St. Martin's tourism marketing strategy plan. At that meeting, I conveyed my wish to see more done via the World Bank Trust Fund. The Trust Fund was intended to put relief towards the people of St. Martin post-Hurricane Irma. 2 years later, my people are still suffering, roofs still need to be repaired, schools are still not fixed, and funds for marketing the destination and an increasing of economic activity are very much needed. Finally, thanks to the Department of Communication, on Tuesday, the Ministry of TIAT prepared a mini-series that takes you behind the scenes to give you a look at what the members of staff and in my ministry have been doing to redevelop St. Martin post-Irma. The mini-series will be featured every Tuesday via CoM and 107.9 FM Gov Radio. I encourage all members of the community to tune in to these stations to get first-hand information on the progress we have made thus far. In the coming weeks, additional media outlets and social media will feature the weekly program. At this time, I look forward to any questions from the media.
Thank you, Minister Johnson, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Wycliffe Smith, to address you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roach. And greetings to all gathered here this morning, colleague ministers, the Department of Communications, members of the press, as well as those listening and viewing via radio, television, or social media. Good morning, Sualiga. On behalf of the Council of Ministers, I would like to welcome our new Minister of Vromi, the Honorable Christopher Waver, to the Council. Thank you very much, Mr. Waver, for accepting the duty of serving our country at this level. There's much to be done. However, we can progress and make a difference with unity. At this time, I too extend my empathy and sympathies to the people of the Bahamas. As Louis and Irma survivors, St. Martin knows all too well the trauma that the devastation of a Category 5 hurricane brings. Our condolences go out to all those who have lost loved ones. You are in our prayers. Material damages will be repaired or replaced, but our loved ones leave us with memories to cherish and legacies to honor. We're thankful that the storm has finally passed your islands after so many days. My brothers and sisters in the Bahamas, as Caribbean people, we stand in unity with you. We are a resilient people, So, as dismal as the grounds may seem, the clear skies above give us hope for better days ahead. As your motto states, forward, upward, onward, together, I'm confident that the Bahama land will march on. I would like to thank all who have reached out as individuals, groups, or organizations to give aid to the people of the Bahamas. We are stronger when we stand together. My cabinet staff has been in contact with the Tallahassee St. Martin Foundation, and all protocols are in place for our students as Florida prepares for the passing of the hurricane. The storm has weakened, but also broadened. Therefore, the hurricane watches and warnings are still in effect for the eastern states of the U.S. We keep all our students and the general U.S. East Coast population in our prayers. An announcement concerning the SSSD workshop. There are several students in secondary school or recent secondary school graduates who are interested in continuing their studies in the Netherlands. And for this reason, the Student Support Services Division will be hosting a workshop on Thursday, September 5th, 2019, entitled Applying to Schools in the Netherlands. This workshop will be held at the University of St. Martin from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Students are encouraged to be on time and to register for the workshop since space is limited. If parents or students have any questions on these workshops, they can contact the Student Support Service Division at telephone 543-1235 for more information. They can also visit the Student Support Services Division office, which is located in the Amigo building across from the police station next to the Windward Islands Bank. The Student Support Services Division also invites the public to join a parent support group session this evening, Wednesday, September 4th, from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. The topic for the session is discipline, strategies parents can use to promote positive behavioral change in their children. The purpose of the meeting is to facilitate an open dialogue on the best practices of establishing clear and effective boundaries with children. The session also aims to address ways in which parents can enforce boundaries without the use of bribery, without the use of threats, and without the use of corporal punishment. Please contact the Student Support Services Division at 543-1235 if you're interested in joining the group. Space is limited. This is not a workshop, but a support group, so please contact the SSSD in advance if you're interested. This past Sunday, I had the privilege to represent the government of Dutch St. Martin at the call to national prayer at the Christ Ambassadors Ministries International in Concordia. Pastors made a call to leaders and citizens of both the French and the Dutch sides for prayer for the nation and for the island in its entirety. The president of the Collectivité de Saint-Martin, Mr. Daniel Gibbs, and his team in government were also in attendance. During my address, I asked the pastors, the congregations, and the people of St. Martin, Saint-Martin, to pray just for three things, namely good health, wisdom, and unity. There are a lot of things we can pray for, but I think if the good Lord would bless us with these three things in this order, we can become a people and a government that would be unstoppable. The call to national prayer service ended with both Mr. Daniel Gibbs and myself carrying our national flags and placing them next to the cross. Let us continue to pray for good health, wisdom, and unity for St. Martin. On Monday, The School Board of the Foundation for Academic and Vocational Education, the FAVE, reopened the St. Martin Academy, the academic section, and welcomed all of our students from 1st to 5th forms, as well as their CAPE students. I also take this opportunity to welcome back all staff, students, and parents for the new year, the new school year, now that you're in your own building. It wasn't easy sharing the building at the PSVE section, and I'm sure that it is a good feeling to be back on your own property, in your own building, and being able to follow your regular timetable. We wish you much success. Also on Monday, September 2nd, I had the privilege to address the law students at the opening of the second year of the law program. As you know, the law program is being offered by the University of Curaçao at the University of St. Martin. Both myself and Dr. Flora Goudappel, who is the Dean of the Law School of the University of Curaçao, stressed the importance of the law program for St. Martin. It is important to have our own homegrown lawyers. To date, 5 new students have registered for the first year. The Dean expects a few more to finalize the registration process. And if there are any persons listening or watching who are interested in going into the legal profession, you're still able to register. To do so, please contact Eartha Kruidenhof on weekdays from 5:30 p.m. in room 200 at the University of St. Martin. On Thursday, September 5th, the National Institute for Professional Advancement, NIPA, will be hosting a commencement ceremony for another cohort of trainees in the construction program. On Friday, the teaching staff will be graduating from the TVITT program, where they were trained in the delivery of vocational education. These teachers will be receiving their diploma in technical vocational instructor and teacher training. On behalf of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, as well as on behalf of the Government of St. Martin, I congratulate the NIPA trainees as well as the teaching staff for successfully completing these courses as well as their training. I know that during the course of the training, you faced many challenges, but you persevered, and your diplomas will remind you that it was well worth it. A few weeks ago, my Cabinet Chief of Staff, Peter J. Gittens, brought to my attention that the lighting around the Raoul Illich Sports Complex in the vicinity of the Asher Stevens Hillside Christian School and the NIPA was very poor. He worked along with the Minister of VROMI, the Honorable Christopher Waver, and with the Corporation of GBE. 90% of the lights are now working, giving proper luminosity to persons using the exercise track, as well as for students of NIPA's evening programs. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Minister Waver, for such efficient work. The Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, in collaboration with the National Sports Institute and the St. Martin Sport and Olympic Federation, is happy to announce that the annual Sports and Creative Industries Open House for the general public takes place on Saturday, September 7th, 2019, from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Raoul Illich Sports Complex in Cahill, under the themes #SportsMatter and #TheArts. The event is free to the public. The parental involvement as partners in education is key. As you know, there are plans in place for improvements and changes to come for the St. Martin Vocational Training School. All parents are invited to attend a Parents' Evening at the St. Martin Vocational Training School on September 10th 2019, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I look forward to seeing all the parents so that we can give a presentation to them as to what is going to be taking place at the school during this school year at this special parents meeting. And in closing, I just learned that one of our faithful reporters, Stephen Cyrillian, is hospitalized, and I wish him well and a speedy recovery. Thank you for watching and for listening, and I'll be available for any questions. Have a pleasant day.
Thank you, Minister Smith, for your opening remarks. If you've just joined us, you are now watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing. We now move on to the question and answer session. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and to our newest Minister of Roaming, Minister Weaver. Minister Weaver, can you familiarize yourself with our school children? Because oftentimes they will get tests about the ministers. So before I get into the question, you can just familiarize yourself, let them know who you are and your job as the newest Minister of Roaming.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Brown. Well, my name is Christopher Weaver. I've been the Chief of Staff for the Minister of Roaming, and I'm now currently the Minister of Roaming. I'm married, have 2 children, raised on St. Martin. Yeah.
Thank you, Minister Weaver. Mr. Wendell Moore of Seymour Journal, you have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Minister Weaver, because I was about to ask, for the sake of broadcast, what is the proper pronunciation of your last name? I've been hearing Waver and Weaver. Thank you for clarifying that. You mentioned in your opening statement that you were about improving road safety. And my first question listed was, in what priority areas are you planning on tackling? And then you did mention housing. But as far as road safety is concerned, what areas are you planning as priority to address, seeing that you've been in the system with the ministry before and know of what has been planned? What are your areas of priority?
Thank you for your question. My priorities for the road safety would be the areas of the schooling, so making sure that the pedestrian crossings are properly marked, and right now also the roundabouts, to make sure that it's a safety concern, that when the tourists are here, they know exactly which lane to go into to go around the roundabout. So right now I'm focused on the roundabouts and the school districts.
Thank you, Minister Weaver. We now move on to the second round of questions. Lyndon Brown, you have the floor.
Question to Minister Johnson. Minister Johnson, the whole world and St. Martin have seen the devastation of the Bahamas. St. Martin have some medical agreement with the Bahamas. And as the Minister of Tourism, did you had any contact with counterpart in the Bahamas? What happened to the hospital? If everything is well?
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your question. And as your question stems through several ministries, so of course, as the head of this government, the Prime Minister indicated in her address that she disseminated a message conveying best wishes and strength to the people of and government of the Bahamas. Through that, the Prime Minister, as acting Minister of VSA, I'm sure in our internal discussions has already started the conversation in terms of what sort of support the government of St. Martin is going to have to them, whether it's through manpower, whether it's through relief, or through encouraging community-based organizations to support. I personally am a member of a Rotary group, and through that, we, of course, are looking at ways and how we can support. As a member of this Council of Ministers, I also will pledge my support through the collective responsibility of this government of how we are going to support, and through that, of course, the government and people of St. Martin continue to extend their wishes of strength to the government and people of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Minister Johnson. Minister De Weaver.
Thank you very much. Ms. Roach, just a little bit of clarification for Mr. Brown. The SZV has relationships with Health City Cayman Islands, not necessarily the Bahamas, so I just want to clarify that so there's no misunderstandings. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister DeWeaver. Wendell Moore, you now have the floor.
Minister Johnson, what can you tell us about the new digital test system for driver's license candidates and the discrepancies that the drivers or those who are the student drivers, actually the trainers, I don't know what's the proper word for them, but those folks who are driving, they seem to have some discrepancies with the new system. What can you tell us about it in defense to their complaints?
Well, the ministry, thank you, Mr. Moore, and of course, welcome to the press briefing. First time I think you and I have been at press briefing together, so indeed welcome. The ministry, and in particular the Inspectorate of TIAT, is following up on those concerns, and once those discussions have been finalized and we look at it in its totality, then we'll see the best approach forward. But indeed, there is a structural approach to addressing the ongoing issues that we've had over the years, and that is being finalized by the ministry, indeed considering the concerns that are now being expressed as well. So once we have more updates in regards to what those discussions and the end of those discussions looks like, we will be able to provide a more detailed update for you.
Mr. Moore, you may follow up.
But isn't it implemented, starting the implementation this month?
Correct. So like I said, the concerns that have now been expressed by some of the instructors as well as some others is being taken up by the inspectorate, and they're in discussion, as well as going to be in discussion with me within a matter of a day or two as well.
Thank you, Minister Johnson. We now move on to the third round of questions. Lyndon Brown, you have the floor.
Question to Minister Smith, Minister of Education. Minister of Education, you should be one of the proudest person today. As we focus on NIPA are busy graduating people who are present in different areas. Minister Smith, could you publicize the criteria of one attending classes at NIPA? For this reason, a lot of local young men committing petty crime, while they can go to NIPA and get a certificate in several areas. So please expound and make it clear to the people so they can go and get a certificate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. Well, there are two ways that one can be admitted. One goes through the normal school system, primary school, secondary school, and then for vocational education after secondary school, one can stream into the NIPA. The other way is that NIPA offers also evening courses, afternoon courses, and those courses would depend on the skills that a person has and does not necessarily require a diploma or certificate, but their experience in it. So NIPA is very popular amongst our young people, our older people as well, and I would encourage all people who want to pursue vocational education. There's a great need for it on our island in building, especially construction and what have you. So they just need to go to NIPA and ask for the requirements and register and attend the course. From the Department of Education and the Division of Study Financing, we offer also scholarships to anyone who has been admitted to the NIPA program. So there are many opportunities, and our young men and girls, because there are also girls who attend, they don't have to stand by the wayside. They can go to school and attend the NIPA programs.
Thank you, Minister Smith. We now move on to Mr. Wendell Moore. You have the final question.
This question is directed to the Minister of Justice. I believe, in fairness, I should say that I might be missing something, but I do have some interest in the fines payment that you mentioned earlier on. Can you outline for me, please, what is it about it? Is it the grace period or the penalties? I really would like some more information on that, please.
Sure. First of all, to begin with, we started the fines recovery project. It is a project that has started on September 1st. There is a grace period to pay your fines. So September 1st to September 30th, you can pay your fines without any penalties. After September 30th, we will start penalizing those who have not paid their fines. The receiver's office will only accept payment once you have the invoice or the fine itself in order to make the payment. If you do not have that invoice, you can pick it up at the prosecutor's office. You can make your payment there as well, but if not, you get your invoice there, you can bring it to the receiver's office and make the payment. We have 3 payment points where they can be made. One is the receiver's office. There you can pay cash or with your card. You can also pay at the prosecutor's office as well as a police station in Phillipsburg with only your card. So that's why there's a little differentiation, because the cash part has to be done by the receivers. All the others except the card. I hope that's enough information, but if there's any more questions you have, I'll be glad to explain it. Correct. And these are outstanding tickets that people have had that have never been paid, and we're encouraging them to do so. There is money on the road, and I think if government is trying to not only take cuts, in fact, our salaries, for example, or try to come up with savings in other areas, I think this is also an area that we can explore and see what it delivers. It is a project. We will be updating you on it. If I don't, the Secretary General, Mr. Russell Ursula, will be doing so, but we plan to keep on doing this because you may get the impression that you get a fine, but you don't have to pay. And because of that, it lingers, and then government loses money, but also we lose time because we're trying to create a social order by making sure that people are safe on the road, and we want to make sure that that's the priority there.
Thank you, Minister DeWeaver.
Thank you.
Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, September 4th, 2019. For rebroadcast, tune in at 7 p.m. on St. Martin Cable TV. For video on demand, log on to the official government's website at stmartingov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication, I'm Rolika Roach, and wishing you a pleasant day further.